Hello everyone. It is Jackie with Pocket of Preschool. And tonight I am giving you a sneak peek at the counting 11 to 20 unit from the Little Learners math curriculum. So what I want to tell you first is at the top of this post, you will find the link to grab it. So without further ado, I want you to tell me in the comments, do you have any of our units from the Little Learners math curriculum? And if you have the bundle, like which one is your favorite so far? I just love hearing all these things from you guys because as you will see, I got feedback from the counting 1 to 10 unit. So yeah, I'll tell you about that in a minute. So in the Little Learners math curriculum, there is a whole bunch of units. You can use them a whole bunch of different ways. You can focus on one unit and do like counting 1 to 10 in September. And then in October, do patterns and kind of have like a focus math skill. Or you can kind of like sprinkle them in all year as needed for small group, for table time, whenever. Or you can use them for RTI and intervention. So if you have a kiddo that's struggling with counting, you can pull them out and go. So, because people always ask me how I organize it, and I'm putting mine in these rainbow drawers from Michael's. They're really sturdy. Buy these on sale because they're expensive. Okay, my other set that I have, I've had for like 4 years, and it's held up. I am a klutz. And I was carrying this one and I like fell and broke it. But that's just because I'm a big old klutz and I fall all the time. But yeah, so these are great. You can pull them out. I have the counting 1 to 10 unit in here, or this was my old system. I used to put them in these iris tubs. So I'm transitioning. So you can see part of my shapes unit is in here and part of it is up there. Because we're actually using, we're kind of doing like a mini focus unit on shapes right now. So you can organize it like that, and it will come with all the labels and things. So you can, again, use it like as a unit and do all of them. With your kiddos, you can use them for RTI, you can use them for interventions, you can sprinkle them in all year as needed, kind of whatever you want to do. Totally up to you. And I tried to make a lot of the games in here like not seasonal, so you can use them at any time. So we're going to jump right in. I'm going to tell you some of the things. So that you'll see if you have the counting 1 to 10 unit, it looks kind of similar because if you have 1 to 10, I wanted to make sure you could use it with the 11 to 20 unit. So the counting 1 to 10 unit has the number posters with real life photographs and the 10 frame and the word, and they're gorgeous. But don't just post these on the wall and be done with them. If you do like number of the week, which not a fan of, but you know what? If you do it, then rock it. You can totally use this poster to put up on your focus wall. If you want to laminate these and lay them out, you can use them for sorting because it comes with tons of number cards. So you can use it as a sorting activity. You can sort math manipulatives and cards by number. So tons of fun ways to use these. You don't have to just like post these on the wall. So just some fun ideas. But yeah, tons and tons of real photographs for you. And again, it goes with 1 to 10. So if you have the counting 1 to 10, you now have 11 to 20. And then it has tons of math cards. So some of them are in color, so you can put them on a book ring just by hole punching them. Or some of them also come black and white, so you can make different sets. I usually make them a different set in different Astrobites color paper, and then there's a like a label you can put on the outside of the baggie. That way, if everyone's using the number cards, or if everyone's using the 10 frame cards, even if some pairs get mixed up, they'll be able to separate them out. And just an easy classroom management technique for you. But yeah, that's all the labels come, and I just tape them on the outside. One thing I did hear from the counting 1 to 10 unit was there were no base 10 blocks. And I know in preschool we don't really use base 10 blocks, but I know a lot of kindergarten teachers use this, so I haven't yet. But I will be adding the base 10 blocks to the 1 to 10 unit, the counting 1 to 10 unit, and they are in here for from 11 to 20. So you'll get base 10 blocks, dominoes, numbers, 10 frames, and then there are counting hands, and there are cubes. So tons and tons of different card options, because you'll use these cards when you play a lot of the games that are included. And you can always use these for like memory or sorting with these big posters. You can really use them for anything. They're great to kind of use like all year long. So all these cards are included. And then, just like in the counting 1 to 10, I put the collection jars in here so they can line these up from 11 to 20. And I did put the dots on the bottom, so if they can't identify that numeral yet, they can check it and count the dots. And again, just different ways to represent those numbers is another skill they need anyway. So it's a great kind of self-check. Plus, it shows kiddos numbers can be represented in so many different ways. So I put the counting jars back in this one too. So you can use these, and you can use like anything with them. I actually keep, if you follow me a lot, you'll know this. I keep like literally a basket of, I call them like everyday mini erasers, so they're not seasonal. And then I use them for things like this. So like you could do a collection of mini erasers. You could do, you know, the typical go-to is for buttons. You could put cubes in there. You could put gems in there. You can really put anything they're interested in there. Rocks, you can do seashells. Anything can go in these collection jars. There are, just like in the counting 1 to 10 unit, you guys told me you wanted more of these chain numbers. Okay, so I forgot to hole punch these, but you'll put a hole right here with a hole punch, and then, can't reach my chains, but you'll use chains and they'll connect 12 of them. So then they'll be able to see how long 12 is. And again, I put the numeral and I put the amount of change so they can self-check. And even if they think they know the number, it's always good for them to practice counting out. So the counting 1 to 10 had little trains, and you guys told me you love them, but I wanted to kind of keep them a little bit different. So these have little flatbed trucks. So you can pretend to load up all the different trucks with things. Again, you can have mini erasers. They can load them up. They can pretend they're toys. So you can load them up with they do 12 little mini erasers. You could do cubes, and you could, I'm gonna stack these up really quick. You could too put them in a row, like number order, have them make a number line. And then with your number cubes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Of course, I should have had this done before. Oh, Jessica's excited about the base 10 blocks. I knew you guys would be, but see, this is why you guys, I love it when you guys tell me feedback. So never think you're gonna like hurt my feelings or anything. I need to know if you guys are needing something that I didn't include, because there's also another surprise coming for you based on your guys' feedback. So I think this is 12, but I started talking. So they could stack them up tall this way, or if they're flat on the table, they could put them in the flatbed this way, and then they can vertically see the number, and they can compare like which one's the biggest, which one's the smallest, with the cubes. So flatbed trucks for counting all the things. And then, if you love the base 10 blocks, kinder teachers, you're gonna love this activity. So this is building your base 10. So, and I have the little cranes. We got, if you have little builders in your class, they will love this. Your boys and girls who love building will go crazy. So you grab your base 10 blocks, and they just, why do I always grab the giant one? So they count out 10, 11, 12, and 13. Now, if you teach preschool and you think this is too high for your kiddos, then don't do this activity. You don't even have to print it. That's one thing that's great about this pack. It's gonna be around, I think, like 180 pages. So if there's an activity that you don't like in here, just don't print it and don't do it. It's totally fine. so I put that in there for all my kinder teachers because I know you guys my kindergarten friends need to be working with those base 10 blocks to get familiar with them because it's part of Common Core as well. The next thing I have are, and these will look familiar, but they're a little bit different. So we have the flip and count card. So this one is a cupcake theme. And these cards come two ways. They come with the numbers with the candles representing them, or they come just with the numeral. So it's up to you which cards you want to use. But basically, they flip a card, and then they put that many candles on their cupcake. You can get these candles at Walmart. I've had these forever, like years, like I bet like 7-8 years I've had like my candles, and they last pretty good, so I'm not gonna count out that many. But so they would flip the card and put that many candles on. If you don't have candles, cut up pipe cleaners, and then now you have candles. So they flip the card, say 13, and then they would count out that many candles, and then you don't have to go buy candle manipulatives if you don't want to. So that's a fun activity for counting. And then kids love buried treasure and pirates all year long. So I made little pirate treasure boxes, or you can just call them like jewelry boxes, whatever you want to call them. And then again, the cards have just the number, or they have the quantity as well. So you pick which ones you want to use, or maybe you just want to put both on the table. And they flip the card, and then they can put that many on. These are like the smaller jewels I have. I've got some like at Michael's or Hobby Lobby, I can't remember where. If you don't have jewels, you can use like pom-poms or little beads would work too. So again, count, identify the number, and put that many treasures in your treasure chest. You could also use like gold coins if you have some of those from like a St. Patrick's Day, like at the dollar store usually has them around St. Patrick's Day. So yeah, so little treasures. Or maybe your kiddos think rocks are treasures. Maybe you can count out some rocks. All right. And then this one, we are going buggy with it. Getting buggy with it. Gotta love the bugs. I'm not a big fan of bugs, but kids love bugs. So they identify the number and then count it out, or just identify the number. Up to you which ones you want to use, or both. And then they put that many bugs on the leaf. I have these bug mini erasers that you could use with them, or if you don't have bug mini erasers, you can use bug counters. Usually everybody has some kind of like bug counter in their classroom. So yeah, just put some little bugs on the leaf. And again, we're just getting kids to count, identify numbers, talk about numbers in different ways every day, because they need to be able to touch it. They need to be able to physically count those things out, because tablets are great, but they need hands-on learning. That's what the research tells us, right? This one is a crayon flip and count, so they count out the crayons or identify the number. And again, these have just the number or the number with the quantity. And then they put it on their crayon box, and you can, again, use these little pipe cleaners and pretend these are crayons, or you can put out, you know how everybody has like those old crayons that like they don't want to use anymore? Save like a little baggie of those, and you can use those for this game, or you can use brand new crayons. It's up to you. So another fun counting game. And then these are this other game that I'm going to show you right now. It's similar to one in the counting 1 to 10 unit, but the themes are different. So these are called Count It, Make It cards. Have a number in the corner, and you can have them either finger trace it, or they can use a dry erase marker and trace the number to sneak in some handwriting and some fine motor. Or again, if you don't want to use dry erase markers, then just have them finger trace it, totally fine. And then they say the number, count the quantity, and put that many in. So this is like a night sky, which is perfect. You can use these all year long. You can use mini erasers with them, Or you could use star beads. I know like the Dollar Tree has star beads a lot, or Michael's has star beads, or you can just use Play-Doh, and they can make little balls of Play-Doh and make some stars. This one is a pizza count, so they would write the number with the dry erase marker or finger trace it, up to you. And it might be different years. Like right now, my kids are kind of drawing on furniture a little bit. Not on purpose, on accident. They're just loving writing and getting markers everywhere. So like I don't have dry erase markers out a lot of places in my classroom. We use them mostly for small group right now. So I would probably just have them finger trace. And then you can either use pom-poms for the toppings, or you could use little like red beads. It's totally up to you. I like pom-poms because they're really fun. And you can also, with pom-poms, if you want to add some fine motor, stick some tweezers in, so they have to tweeze them out and get that pincer grasp, that pincer going. So again, my little builders are gonna love this one because it's a dump truck and rock, make and count. So again, say the number, write it, and count it out to double check. And then these little rocks, I love these. These are from the Dollar Tree, and they're in the floral section. You can get like a little bag for $1, and they can count out this many rocks. Just pretend I counted, and then put them on their dump truck. And these, I use these cards. I use these a lot for morning table time, like an arrival game, because I can put the cards out. I can put little bowls of the manipulatives out, and it's kind of one of those that they walk up and they know how to play it. I don't have to like teach them any rules, or it's not like a game where they have to take turns. They can kind of play at their own pace and go to town. So I use these a lot for morning table time. And I know people are always asking like, what do I put out in the morning? These. These are really fun to put out. So I don't know about you, but I love cereal. So why not do a cereal, count it, make it, so they can write their number and then count out that many and say the number. And you can either use real cereal or you can use pom-poms. But it would be really fun to give everybody their own little cup of cereal for them to use by themselves. Obviously, make sure it's whatever allergies you got going on in your classroom, make sure it's allergy safe for your kiddos. But yeah. Okay, so somebody's asking, are these on all the cards? So the quantity is on all of these cards. It's not an option to not print it. But if you don't want it on there, you can always just cut it off with like your paper cutter. I just put it on there because sometimes, especially those teen numbers, they're tricky and it takes kiddos longer to identify them. You could also fold it and then put a clip on it or on the side, so that way it's not there unless they need it, so it can be kind of like a guess and check. So that's another option too. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, all of these little activities come with a cover, so you can put a book ring on them, and they can play them. You can put like a tub of rocks, and you could put these cards in with your tub of rocks. Like if you have some rocks in your manipulatives or your math or your science area, put these cards in with them on a book ring, and maybe they'll do these independently during center time. So all kinds of fun counting goodness. All right, moving on. So, So these little guys look familiar. These are the ones where they get to do beads. So I'm sneaking in some fine motor work. Again, these are great for morning table time. These don't have the quantity on them. So these, they just say the number. And if your kiddos are struggling identifying the number, put them next to a peer that knows some more of the numbers, and then they can ask their peer for help if needed. Or you can put out the number cards, and they can kind of guess and check type thing. So these are like a lollipop. So they say the number, and then they put that many on the lollipop stick. And these are just pony beads from like the Dollar Tree. Again, use just whatever you have in your classroom, and I just taped like half of a pipe cleaner on the back. So they're suckers, and then they're also flowers. And these are really fun to just stick in like a little bucket, and you can put the beads in the bottom of the bucket, and then they can count out that many when they are playing their game. But again, just sneaking in more of that fine motor by adding the beads and stringing them. It's a different way to count. So yeah. All right, so my kiddos, I don't know about yours, but they love animals and they love like feeding the animals. So I have this little bear feed me game. So you have options for this. So there are 10 frame fish to feed the bear. There are base 10 blocks to feed the bear, or numerals. And you guys can play this so many different ways. You can put 2 of these sets of cards out and they have to like match them. Like they would have to find the match, like 12 and then the 12 10 frame, and then they have to feed the bear. And I know some of you guys are like, why is it on a bucket? Because sometimes you just don't have time to cut things out and make them all Pinterest perfect. So just if you are like, oh my God, I don't have time to cut out the mouth and put it on a bag, blah, 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 no worries. Just tape it to a bucket. Super simple. And then they can just feed the bear that way. Because let's face it, we got to do all the things and all the paperwork and clean the room and keep our kids healthy and safe and love on them. And sometimes you just don't have time to prep everything exactly how you would want it, but you don't have to. It's okay. Just throw it on a bucket and you are good to go. It'll save you probably 10 minutes of prep time. So, gotta do anything you can to save time. It's also fun to put little, paper clips on these, and then have them use a magnet wand, and they can like spread them out or put them on like a blue tray or something, and they can pick up the magnet wand, the fish with their magnet wand, like kind of like magnet letter fishing, but they're fishing for fish, and then they say, find the fish, and they either say or count out the number, and then put them in. So just put some little paper clips on there, and you are good to go. All right. I'm telling you guys, this pack is ginormous. So this is a number cover, and if your kiddos love like bingo daubers, just print it. It's like a worksheet type, and they can use the bingo dauber. And for these, where did they go? For these, what I would do is I would put out a ring of cards, and they would have to count out that many and then match it. And they can bingo dauber it, or I'll show you a couple other ways to play. But this one has numbers, dice, 10 frames, more dice, and more dice. No, sorry, dominoes. Those are dominoes. I can't see backwards. So there are 10 frames, and then, okay, let's start over. So there's numbers, there are dice, there are 10 frames, and then there's dominoes. And these dominoes, most of them have like a 0 with them, or a 5 and a 2. Then this one is kind of like mixed up dominoes. So this one has like a 6 and 4 make 10 type. So it's kind of a higher level one. So if you're like, why are there 2 dominoes? That is why. One's a little bit higher level. But if you wanted to use it as a mat, you could do that too. Like maybe you're not a worksheet person, or you're not allowed to use worksheets. I don't use any worksheets personally. Wow, I got red on the thing. All of a sudden I look and I'm like super red. So what you can do is, I love these bingo, they're magnetic. So they would count out that many and then cover their board. And then once it's all covered, they can clean off their board with the magnetic wand. So that would be a fun way to play. You can also use, somebody's I think is saying this in the comments right now, you can use a dry erase marker and just mark it off. You could also use counting cubes and use it as kind of like a build it game. So when they they can just like say 17, and then they would build 17 tall, and then all their number stacks represent all the different numbers. And that's a fun way to visually compare quantities with these little Unifigs or counting cube game. So yeah, so there's so many ways to play these. And don't worry if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna remember this when I get the unit. It's because it's all on the direction pages for you. I always have in my direction pages tons of options and tons of ways to play the game because every classroom is different. And I think especially for preschool, pre-K and kinder, there's just, every classroom is different. There's half day, full day, there's public, there's private, for profit. There are all kinds of abilities. There's so many different, there's in-home, in school. So that's why there's always tons of options. That way you can play it the way that works best for you, your classroom, your admin, all of that. So yeah, and maybe you're gonna play the game one way one year, and then maybe you'll play it a different way a different year. So here are some 10 frame mats, because I mean, can you really ever have enough 10 frame mats? So these just have little balls on them, or marbles, whatever you wanna call them. So they count out that many, and then they trace the number. I lost my, I have like 2 dry erase, there it is. I brought like 3 over here, because I always know I can never find it. And then they can trace the number. And then they can build it, and you can use cubes, you can use mini erasers, you can use bingo counters, you can build this, you can use googly eyes. If your kids are not engaged and they're not excited, put out some googly eyes and have them count those out, and they'll be like, oh, so excited. These are just like colored googly eyes I got from, I think, Michael's. They're so much fun. So fun. And also too, you don't have to laminate everything if you maybe don't have access to a laminator, or maybe you don't have time, or yours broke, whatever it is. These pouches work great. I got some off Amazon, or you can buy them sometimes at the Target dollar spot, or just put these in like a page protector, and that works too. You don't always have to laminate everything. But again, this is a great way to sneak in fine motor, because they're writing, they're counting out, and then they're making the 10 frame. So they're representing numbers 3 different ways. Okay. All right, so here is a fun kind of build it game. So Sarah's asked, Sarah was asking, do I use these for small groups? And I totally do. I use a lot of the math because I don't really use them like one whole unit. Like I don't focus on one in a month. However, I do with shapes. I do like kind of like a 2-week unit on shapes, just because some of my kiddos just need some of that extra practice. And I think I feel like once they get shapes, they kind of got it. So I feel like once we got it, we're kind of good, and we can kind of move on to like other math skills. Whereas patterns, there's so many different levels, and counting, there's so many different levels. But like IDing shapes is pretty basic. Once they can ID a shape, they got it. There's not a lot of higher level learning in that, besides like describing the characteristics. So yeah, so I use these a lot for small group, and table time is when I use them probably the most, is table time. That morning, and then the dismissal table time. So these are little Play-Doh buckets. So you would put these all out over the table, and then what they do is they match the Play-Doh they put the Play-Doh with the matching number. And I did make the Play-Doh jars different colors, so it's kind of a way to self-check, like, oh, that one's not 11 because the color doesn't match. So it's a little bit of a self-check in there. There are, I think, 2 of each color, so it's not a complete way to self-check, but it'll catch some of them. But there are counting hands, there are numerals, and there are 10 frames for this one. All right. So this is the one I added based on your feedback. So you guys were telling me that I didn't have anything in the counting 1 to 10 unit for the counting on standard. So I will also be adding this activity to the counting 1 to 10 unit, but you'll have to give me probably about a day or 2. But I will let you guys know when I add that. So there's 3 different levels. So some of them have 3 numbers filled in for them, and they just, that was like a super hard one. Let's start with a little bit easier one. So they just have to fill in the number with a dry erase. And you can use it, you can also keep, these are on 3 to a page. So you can also put these in a page protector if your kiddos have trouble erasing off just the lamination. So it just kind of, I think Expo markers work the best. I notice if I buy off-brand Expo markers, they don't erase as well off lamination. So if you have packs of off-brand like I do, because I buy them when they're cheaper, just put them in page protectors or dry erase pockets and they'll erase better. But they just write the number in, and then if that's easy for them, this one only has 2 numbers in it. And then this one, they just get that first number, and then they have to count on. Again, so I will be adding this here. Where did it go? If you would see my piles down here, you guys are probably laughing. I wanted to show you. So here it is for the, now this is the counting 1 to 10 unit. So again, I have the ones with 3 numbers on it, ones with 2 numbers, they have to fill in the rest and count on. And then there's the hardest level would be they have this 1 number at the front, and then they have to count on and do all of the rest. And while I'm telling you about the update to the 1 to 10 unit, here are also the 1 to 10 base 10 bucks. Or not base, yeah. Yay! So I will let you guys know when this is added, but thank you guys so much for your feedback. So yeah, so I'm loving that you guys told me, and then I can help you guys and add in that standard for you. That way you guys don't have to get another activity out from somewhere else. You can just pull all from here. And then I forgot to tell you, a lot of these are gonna have worksheets with them. I don't use any of them. Well, I take it back. I probably use the worksheet probably about like twice a month. So they're in here if you want them. But like here are the worksheets for counting on. So there's, this one is just a number trace. This one has a couple of the numbers filled in for them. And then this one just has the first and the last number. So kind of 3 levels, kind of like the card. So I hope this helps you guys with that counting on objective. All right, so I don't know about you, my kids love race cars. So this is a fun game. It's different because it's long and skinny. Sometimes just changing the game board is enough for them to be excited. So this game is super simple, so don't overthink this one. So all they do, I wonder if I put on the table for you guys can see it. All they do is they each take their car and they start, and these are just car counters. You can use whatever you have in your classroom, little movers, and then they roll a dice, 6, and then they move that many. And what you can do is you can see if they can count on, and for this game, so this game is, you could use for counting on, or they can just use it to practice their counting and then identifying the numbers, and you can count more they need. And I let my kiddos usually, because everybody always asks, what do you do when you get to the end, if they need that exact amount. And honestly, usually my higher level kiddos, I have them, and they usually do it on their own, which is, it's always interesting to me that higher level kiddos kind of make the game harder for themselves anyways. I usually don't have to step in, but they're always like, oh, you have to get the exact number. So like they would both have to roll 2 to get the finish line. Whereas if you have like a younger kiddo, they'll just like, they roll 6. Oh, I got to the end. So they didn't use the exact number. So I kind of base my rules on kind of how they play, and I do let them make up the rules as long as like they're not crazy. So yeah, just kind of gives them some voice and choice in the classroom, and as long as they're counting and playing the game and engaged, and not, you know, being crazy, like I'm a happy girl. Another race to 20 game. So the 1 to 10 counting pack had the domino race car game, so I wanted to put a race car game in this one too. But I wanted to make it a little bit different. So this one you can either use as like a worksheet or a game board. And basically all they do, and again, don't overthink this one. So they roll the dice, 3, and then they would just stop, 1, 2, 3. Then they roll the dice again, 2, 1, 2. And they just keep rolling and dying until they get to 20. Super simple, so don't overthink this one. I think sometimes I'll get an email about how to play like the race to 20 or race to 50 games, and I think it's because sometimes as teachers we overthink things. So yeah. Oh, and said if you can't get your dry erase markers to erase off your lamination, just use a little piece of magic eraser. And there are magic eraser sheets now too that are really cool if you haven't checked that out. Another fun thing to do with the race to 20 game is to use, oh, can't even see them, little like washers and bolts or screws, whatever you have in your classroom. I actually have these, and we use them just for fine motor. They just play with them in my classroom in my math center. So why not use these to cover up your board? So they roll 4. I don't know why I keep holding the tray. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then like if they would roll 2, then they would roll 1, 2, and they would just have to cover their whole board. So sometimes too, just changing up that manipulative is really fun. And I know you guys are gonna ask me, what does my box of goodness look like? This is literally what I have in the math center. So I have these, like, I'm not a mechanic. I don't know, I'm not handy. I just went to Lowe's and had somebody help me to make sure I had the same size of everything. So I have the bolts, and I have the nuts, and then I have the washers. But yeah, and they just love twisting these on, and look at all that great fine motor. So literally it's like in my fine motor center, or my math center, super simple, but it's really fun to use them as game pieces on your game board. So another counting game, and again, I just put a whole bunch of games in here to give you guys options, so you guys can play them all year long, or maybe you guys focus on them for 1 month, and then maybe you notice some kiddos are struggling and you need to bust them back out for RTI or intervention, and you are good to go. You can even use these for like a like take home bag for like homework. So if you don't want them to do like a worksheet, send this home with some counters and then they can play. So yeah, so this is cover up. Again, it's basically the same thing as race to 20. They just roll the dice and they put that many on their board, and they play until both their 10 frames are full. So there's this cover up board with these cutie patootie kiddos. And then there are also the mini eraser boards. These are just a little bit smaller, so if you have mini erasers, these kind of fit in perfectly. And if you want to also use these mini eraser boards too, they can literally just, where did my cards go? So they can say 11, and then they just have to represent 11. So they would flip the card 11, and then they would have to make 11, and then they would clear their board. 20, then they would have to make 20, and then clear their board and play again. So super simple, but so many ways to play. Because if you guys are amazing and you print and prep all of these for your kiddos, I try to make them so you're not like stuck you're not stuck using them the same way every time. You can kind of mix it up. So yeah, so puzzles. I love puzzles, kids love puzzles, and they're great because they kind of have a self-check piece to them sometimes. So there are 2 puzzles in this pack, and they're different than the 1 to 10. So this one has a 4-piece puzzle for each number. So it has the numeral, the dice, the 10 frame, and the cubes. And then this puzzle it goes all the way from 1 to 20. This puzzle just has numbers 11 to 20, but kids love emojis, so I thought what better way to sneak in some social emotional, and they can talk about feelings, and they love emojis. So they just have to count how many emojis and match them up with the number. So we got like some like scared face, got some laughing, crying, got some sleeping. And again, these puzzles, this one starts at 1 and it goes to 20. The other puzzle just goes 11 to 20. So 2 puzzles you can play with. And then we have a Play-Doh tray. or Play-Doh mat or a math mat. If you don't want to use Play-Doh, you don't have to. Sherry says she loves all my trays. I literally have every tray out almost in my whole classroom. Some of them have paint on them because we painted today. Or some of my kids paint almost every day. So yeah. But I love these trays from Target. They're awesome. But anyways, these are just math mats or Play-Doh mats, whatever you want to use them as. I just laminated them. That way we can use dry erase marker. So they can make the 15 with Play-Doh and they can trace it. And then they can count it. And then build it, and they can use, if you have Play-Doh out, they can build it with Play-Doh. And then they can count out that many, or they can again just count out, make little Play-Doh things and put that many in. So super fun. And it's also in black and white. So if you want to let kiddos like use it as a worksheet, you can totally use this as your number worksheet. And they can just color it, trace it again, or you could even have them, I didn't put anything on here because sometimes it's fun to have them kind of like design it, so make it like stripes or something, and then fill it and then build it. So super fun. Or you can, if you don't have a color printer, and again, you can print anything in this pack in grayscale. You just, when you open it from Adobe, there should be a little box and you can check print in grayscale, and then you can print on colored paper, print everything in this pack on colored paper, but you can also print these on Astrobites paper too, if you want to save some ink. And then there's one more game, if you can believe it. And there is a Play-Doh tray in here too, which the Play-Doh tray is almost the same as the 1 to 10. It's a little sandwich. I might have to but they are building their sandwich. Can you guys see? So they build a vertical number line. I'm just gonna put them this way so you guys can see the numbers. But basically they're building a sandwich. And it goes all the way to 20. I have it in order just so it would be faster. So yeah, and then it ends with the bun on the top. So they build it all the way to 20. Obviously theirs would be more spread out than mine is. And then I also did, it's so easy to do math with food, by the way. I try not to make everything food, but this one they make a giant vertical number line. Again, they would have theirs spaced out, but just because of space, I just want to show you kind of what it would look like. And it goes all the way up to 20, even though it's a little curved. It's okay. So yeah, so 2 different ways to make a vertical number line, because numbers aren't always horizontal. Sometimes they're vertical. So just a different take on making a number line. So yeah, so again, oh, I'm out of breath. It's a long one tonight, but this one has so many things. I want to say it's around 180 pages. You can go to the top of this post and you can grab it. And again, nothing is really like, as you can see, like this is a cheeseburger and ice cream. So you can use a lot of these all year long. They're not seasonal. You can use them for small group, RTI, intervention. You can use them all in 1 month. It's totally up to you. I hope you guys had an amazing night.